Yeah, I've got two short videos I want to show tonight. Both of them are basket illusions. One of them is a segmented one and the other one is carved, but they are different and I enjoyed making both of them. But
Formatted
anyway, the first one I've got
135C.
tonight
Nice.
is this one here. It looks like a woven piece of segmented turning. But it actually is a segmented turning. It kind of goes together a little different than most of them because a lot of the pieces here are hand cut. They're not uh, they're not a cookie cutter, like you normally do segmented where you cut all the rings and all the pieces. The only thing that is cut the same, or are not the same, but the only ones that are really cut uh, the same are the vertical pieces. All the horizontals are done separately. So let me get that one started. And this one is, of course, all this stuff either comes from Pinterest or from Facebook or somewhere. But there was a guy on Facebook that had this, and he did it, and I thought it turned out pretty good. So let me share my screen here and. As with most of the projects that I do, I find inspiration loud enough, whether it's
Yeah, it's good enough.
Pinterest or YouTube. But in this case, it was from a Facebook group, Segmented Turners group on Facebook, and it was by Ross McClellan. It's a segmented vase that he had done, and I thought looked really good, so I thought I would give it a try. So this is what it looks like. It looks like it's open segment, but it's really kind of ringed. It's really not either one because you cut them like rings, but we're not going to glue them up that way. So once I find the project, then I try to dissect it, and that's why I'm looking at printed out his and counting the rings, counting the segments, and trying to figure out what size it is. He gave some description of it on the Facebook page, but not everything. So to make it easier, I created this so I could kind of see it and see how these pieces are actually going to go together. You have verticals that are 1.25 inches. You have a 3.25 inch stock, and the bottom piece is actually the base is really going to be just a solid base. And the very first layer is going to be 1/4 inch high, and then a 3/4 inch stock. But it's a vertical, but it's only a 1/4 inch high. The formula for segmented stuff is, it's not hard. The formula is always the same. You take the diameter of the ring, multiply that times 3.14 to give you the total distance around that layer of the ring, and then you divide that by the number of segments, and that gives you the total length across the top of each segment. The angle is 360 degrees, around a circle, divided by the number of segments, and then you divide that by 2. So in our case, I'm going to have 10. So it's 10 segments on each layer, each ring. So I'm going to take 360 divided by 10, which is 36. Divide that by 2. So the angle on each side of every segment here is going to be 18 degrees, all the horizontal segments. And then the verticals are just going to be 3/4 inch spacers. in between all these. Then I lay it out on graph paper. And I use 1/4-inch segments or 1/4-inch squares so I can lay this thing out. And as you can see, I am drawing the vase out here. So I try to draw the outside wall and get it all drawn in there. And then I come back and decide how thick or how wide each layer has to be. So that, when this thing swings down through here at an angle, it's got to be able to hit one side and come out the other and still stay in that piece of wood. So that's why they're different widths. Every layer is going to be a little different width, or most of them are. And then I just start cutting pieces out. So, over here I've tried to come up and say, okay, I need so many inches of this size wood for these segments. So let me go cut those out. All right, the base is just going to be some 3/4-inch material I have. I've glued it up, and this case it's going to be mahogany, but it could be anything. The actual vase is going to be made out of oak. So anyway, to make a glue block, I have a glue block here that I made, and it's just a nut. It's an 1 by 8 nut, and I have it drilled out, and actually drilled out twice. My spindle sticks out more than the nut does. So I drill an 1 5/8 inch hole in this piece. It happened to be just a piece of 2x4, but it could be anything. But I drill an 1 5/8 inch hole so the nut will fit in it, and in the center of that I drill an 1 1/4 hole. That way the spindle, just a little deeper. That way the spindle, when it tightens up against this surface of the nut, it will stick out past it, and it'll clear. It won't hit anything on the other side. Then I take that, once it's glued in here with epoxy, I do put holes around it just so I can put a screwdriver in it to get this off the chuck again, or get it off the spindle. But then I glue a sacrificial piece on here. This piece is the 2x4 and the nut always stay together. This is just a sacrificial piece of plywood or anything that can cut away and throw away and replace over time. In this case, it's just a little piece of plywood. I do go ahead and drill a hole. When you drilled that hole to begin with, you had a center point in that Forstner bit. And so I go ahead and drill that through, all the way through, just so I can get a toothpick or some type of, an ice pick or some type of a device that I can find the center of this other board with. So this piece I have marked the center, and then I'm going to find it with the ice pick so I can center this thing up. I could, this thing is small enough, I could just look at it and put it on here, and that would be okay too. But sometimes you don't have that advantage. Sometimes you have a bigger piece you're trying to glue on here, and it helps to be able to center it up. So to start this, you take a piece of brown paper bag. This one here is just a brown paper bag from Brahms, but it could be anybody's paper bag. You want it fairly sturdy. You can't use printer paper, anything that thin, because you want something a little thicker. And you take your glue block that you have already made up, and you put some glue around it. It doesn't take a lot of glue. And in our case, we just want a one string of glue around here. Now, the reason I say that is because if you glue it all the way to the center, that means when you come to take it back off again, you're prying it off. You've got to pry that paper apart all the way to the center. And you don't need it, so all you want glued is this outside edge anyway. So once you have it glued, just press it down on your paper, turn it around a little bit, put a little weight on it, and while it's drying, you can cut the paper off. You know, we're just going to cut around this paper, so we'll end up with a circle here, right? Just like that. All right, now, like I said before, because I can see this, I don't have to put that point down in here into this one. I can see it and line it up, and I know that it's in the center. So we're going to do the same thing on this surface. We're going to come in here, and that glue bottle is almost glued up here. So just one little string of glue around here, put it on here, and turn it around, and center it up, and weight it down. And in my case, I just put a weight on it. I have an 8-pound weight that I just set on it and let it set overnight and dry. And then tomorrow I'll come back and turn this thing and make it flat so I can start the bottom of the base. To cut my segments, I use a miter set to set my miter gauge for the table saw. You can use it to get down. He has preset stops here. So here's a 0 over here and a 15, and what we want is 18. So they have a little device here that you can add or subtract, a half a degree on all these. So anywhere up to a half a degree accuracy. And it's very accurate. I like this better than I do a wedgie sled. I do have that. I do have different sleds, but this I like better. I just think it's easier to use. Once in a while, if it's little bitty pieces, then I do have another sled that goes actually on both sides of the table saw blade. And so that when I cut something, I can pull the sled back to me and the piece will come back to me and I can take it off. That way I don't have to get real close to that blade. But most of the time, this is what I use. So let me set this up for 18 degrees and we'll go cut something. And just set the miter gauge up here and tighten it up. And that's it. So that one's set for 18 degrees, and we can go cut some pieces. All right, so I have 3 parts here. I have the fence that I set, the miter gauge that I've set for 18 degrees, and I put a piece of fence on here so I can have a little more stability across the miter gauge instead of the little 6-inch, 5-inch piece here. It could be longer. I put sandpaper on this side so that it grips the piece of wood. If I'm going to cut a piece of wood, it would grip it and hold it because when you push it through here trying to cut, it does have a tendency to pull that piece with it because it is at an angle. The other piece I have is a table saw insert. I changed out my regular insert that goes in the table saw and put this in here because I put this little piece of 45-degree angle board on here. So when you cut something off, it'll hit this and slide off. It'll come away from the blade rather than right up against the blade. This, you don't have to do the table saw insert. Just take a piece of wood and make a 45 triangle piece and double side tape it to your existing table insert. That works fine too. The other piece of this is a stop block. You see mine's nothing special. I have made several different stop blocks over the years, but this one works real well. It's just two pieces of wood. One is to get it up above the level of this, because this was 3/4 inch, and so is this bottom piece. So it's to get this bolt head up above that surface, so it'll slide up here. And not that it's going to go across it, but the wood's going to go across it. Now the next piece I have here is a little threaded insert that I've drilled and going to go in this block. So I drill down deeper than the bolt that I'm going to put in here, so that this bolt can go up and down and adjust the distances, change distances, so I can set it for the the correct amount for the top edge of that segment. And then I put a wing nut on it so I can lock it down. This little screw over here is just to keep the thread, is to tighten up the threaded insert, just to keep it from backing out. Because once you tighten this down, if it's metal to metal on that insert, when you go to unscrew it, it'll have a tendency to back that threaded insert out. So this is just to stop it from doing that. And all I do is clamp that to my table saw. I did make one out of the Harbor Freight little magnet strips. I think y'all have seen that, and that works good if you have a cast iron table. I just don't have that. I have an aluminum tabletop here, so the magnets don't work. But it's the same principle. You would do the same thing. You're still just screwing this in and out to adjust it for that length that you want. So let me get it set up and we'll cut a piece. So I marked this top edge with a digital caliper, so I would know the distance across the top edge of this segment is going to be. And then I line all of this up and set my stop block and cut it to where it's right on that mark. And then I cut off the number of segments I need for that. And that's what these are. These are 18 degrees on each side, and it's 1.34 across the top of this. But anyway, that's how I cut these things. I did make a different type of caliper, and I think you've seen that before, but let me show it to you. I saw this on the internet and I thought this is what I had to have. So I made one of these and bought all this stuff and put it together and made it, and decided that it wasn't worth it. I'd just as soon use a digital caliper, just one digital caliper by itself, and not mess with this thing. This works really good. It's just that I just soon use the other one. So to me, it wasn't worth the money, so I never use it. Okay, so I have my base prepared. It's glued up to the glue block and sanded off flat, and I've turned it round. And now I've got to hold it somehow, because every one of these rings I have to put on as individual pieces and glue them on here. You can't glue it up as a ring just because of the nature of the thing. But let me show you how I'm going to hold it. This is a, what do you call it, a carbon station that I've made. This one here is out of 3 bolts from a Tractor Supply, 1-inch bolts. There's one bolt here, there's a bolt going through here and a bolt here, and a piece of pipe, and then of course 3 nuts and a couple of lock washers. And it allows me to put in my banjo and tighten it up any direction that I want to go and turn it whichever way I want it to go. So let me do that and get these pieces started gluing, and I'll show you how it all goes together. Okay, I have the first and second rows on here. Let me take that off a little bit, and you can see the first row is this 1/4 inch piece in here, and then the second row is this one. And now all I've got to do is sand it flat. So you sand it flat between every ring, but you sand off these and make it flat. And then we put another row on. When I get another row on here, then I can come back and turn these down a little bit. Don't ever touch this top row because there's no support back here. It might just break everything off. So you want to have at least one row on top, and then you can turn everything below it. So that's where I'm at. I just need to sand that and make it flat and go from there. Okay, so I took it, it's still on row 2, and I'm putting row 3 on right now. But this one right here, I went ahead and rounded it just so I could make sure it was centered all the way up. And then I came back and marked these. I wanted these to be 3/4 of an inch sticking in. So anyway, I'm going to come back and glue these. But each one of these you have to glue individually. And then when you get to this last one over here, then you can adjust it, sand it to make this block fit in here, because it may or may not fit. But that's okay. But anyway, right now I'm just going to glue these. Around here. Put a little glue on it. I can't see, so I don't know if you're seeing this or not. So I'm going to line it up on this side so I can see it, and then make it fit. So I can already see that one there's off. He's got to move way over here. Yep, just about like that. And get it on top of that other one, below it. Yep. Move that back out to my 3/4, and that's it. And then you do all these all the way around like that, trying to line them up going across here, so that this one ends up above the one below it every time. And that's all there is to it. It doesn't have to be perfect, because it's like a woven basket. They're never perfect either. So every layer, I'm rounding it off, almost round. It's not quite round, but almost round, so I can get the next section, next ring centered up on here. And then I come back and sand these flat, so everything is flat here in the same plane. And right now I've got 3 rings on, and I'm going to come in and turn a little bit of this away in here and kind of clean that up a little bit before I get too deep in here. Okay, I started another layer. This one started coming in, so I have smoothed this off. I'm going to put a steady rest on this to hold it, to give it some support out here while I go ahead and turn the rest of it. I do have the inside partially turned, and I have the outside partially turned, just the major pieces knocked off, corners knocked off. So let me just keep building this up. All right, so I now have all the rings together. Everything is glued up. And I ended up having to cut each one of these segments by hand because I wanted to line up the verticals, get all these verticals lined up and down straight. And so all the segments that I cut, most of them didn't fit. I ended up having to cut most of this by hand and redo every one of them. So every ring was done by hand. But now I need to put a jam chuck on here so I can remove the big steady rest and complete this outside. I want to go ahead and turn the outside, get that outside dimension down and sanded and finished or almost finished. I'll probably still have a few areas, like up here at the lip that I'll need to do with another steady rest back on here. But basically all the outside I'm going to complete, and then I'll start turning the inside and getting the walls thinner. So let me get that plug started, and we'll go from there. All right, so I have the outside turned as thin as I can get it in spots. It gets pretty thin right here at the top. It gets pretty thin, and a couple of spots in the middle. So I think I'm just going to stop right there, and we're going to turn the inside out, hollow it out. All right, so this is my hollowing rig. It's a D-bar like Lyle Jamieson's, but I made it. And it works pretty good. I do have a monitor on here. You can see this. You can see the camera, and then up here I have a monitor, and it's just a plain dumb monitor. It takes an NTSC or an NTCS? I've forgotten what it is, but signal. And that's what this camera puts out. So it's nothing special. But you do draw on the, you can see where the blade is. And then I put a ruler down here so I can get a 1/4 inch away or however far away from the wall that I want, wall thickness that I want. And I just kind of draw a mark, and then I can follow that inside when it goes inside the vessel. So let me back up a little bit here and see if you can see this. I don't know if you can or not, but see right there, he's way off of it. But right there, you can see the wall and where it's cutting, and it works pretty good. I don't know that it's any better than the laser. I like the laser too. Just having a laser where it drops off the edge of it and you see it go away. But I like that one too. But anyway, this is it. I do have a smaller steady rest on here now, and so I can get down around this thing. And here's the actual vessel. I have finished the outside and sanded it, and now I'm just working on the inside and getting it thinner. And but that's it. That's how I hollow things out. All right, I'm going to sand out the inside of this with just a stick with some styrofoam on it and a little Velcro around it, so I can stick a piece of sanding paper on here, just a regular sanding paper you buy at Harbor Freight or Lowe's, and use this stick to help sand the inside of this out. But anyway, that was. Can't remember his name now, but one of the guys on our club that came up with this, and it works real well. Okay, so I've got it sanded and ready to take off of here. So again, it was just a paper joint. So all I'm going to do is just knock this thing off. And it comes off pretty easy. Actually, I'd already hit it once on one side and it just comes right off here. And then you can turn it around the other way and finish the bottom. Okay, so it's all sanded, and I just need to get rid of this little nub here. You know, I had it reverse chucked in here, so this is the live tailstock end, and the other end had a jam chuck on it. And I was able to turn the paper off and make this a little concave and put the circles on here. And when I do that, I'm left with a little point here. It's not even a 1/2 inch wide, and that's where the live tailstock was sitting. And I just take that off with a little grinder. You could use a Dremel. In my case, I have a Merlin 2, and with this rough, like a cut saw blade on it, and it works real well. So let me take that off. And then I'll put it on a sander over here and just sand this away. I just put a one of these little disc sanders in my drill press. So I put this in the drill press, and so it's stationary, and then I'm just moving the base around, and I can sand that right off there. And then I finish it, and we'll be done. All right, well, good deal. Yeah, is there any questions about the vase?
Yep,
No, that
floor
was
is open.
great. It answered a lot of questions I had.
That was a great demo, dude.
It was.
So we did have,
Boy, I
there
thought I
was-
had
there
to
was a-
practice
there was a
patience.
bit
I
of-
really,
there was a bit of conversation about the glue joint. How, 'cause myself, I've always used, a little bit of glue all the way around, the piece, in the paper for putting it on. You've never had any issue with just one little line going around?
Yeah,
Doesn't sound
no,
like it.
no. The one little line works great for me. If you put too much, it's too hard to get it off there.
Oh, I
Yeah.
agree.
You're fighting that
Turning.
thing all the way to the center, and
Yeah,
you don't need it. Especially if you're, I've got a steady rest on there, so it's not like it's going to be bouncing out, 8 inches off this chuck.
yeah,
So anyway, that one little line works great for me. And then, by the time you get it smeared out, it's probably an inch and a half wide anyway.
right.
So you don't need a whole lot, or I don't feel like you do.
Yeah,
But this one, it was kind of a different thing. Because you had to cut each one of those pieces. I thought I could make all the pieces like a segmented vase and put them up here and glue them together, but you can't really do that. It's too hard to do. So I ended up cutting certain, that first layer I put on here, I ended up cutting several of them, just trying to make it fit. So I figured it probably easier just to go ahead and put all the verticals up. Glue one vertical in, hold the other piece up to it, and mark it, where the other vertical should be, and anyway, glue it up that way. But it worked out fine.
Hey, Bob, can you show us your homemade carbon setup that you put together?
Yeah, I could. I probably can't right now. I'd have to go out in the garage and get it. The actual monitor, are you talking about the monitor, or are you talking about the carbon head?
That carbon head, where you could set it down in your banjo, work on your piece.
Oh yeah, that one I actually have on our website. That's nothing but like I said, it's like 3 bolts and a piece of pipe. You do have to do a little welding. One of the nuts on one side you make kind of like a little castle nut here that just holds another washer, so you can tighten it down when you tighten the nut on there. Let me go get that in a minute, and I'll show you that one. That one's fairly easy, but those are easy to make, and it's cheap.
and then we had a question in the chat, and it says, did you have to use a file to clean between your segments?
No, not necessarily a file. You can, while it's still gluing and the glue's damp, I use not pipe cleaners. People tell you use pipe cleaners, but it's easier for me to use those dental sticks, I guess you call them, little demi sticks or something. They're just little pieces of look like a pipe cleaner, but it's on a stick. It's on a little handle.
Right.
And I dip it in water and then wipe it across that joint, and the glue just comes out while you're there. Even on open segmented pieces, that's what you need to do too. Nobody really talks about cleaning that glue out, but you have to clean it out. Otherwise, if you put too much glue, it's going to squeeze out. and that's how you clean it up. You use a little dental stick or one of these little pipe cleaner things to clean it out of each joint.
And were you using quick and thick glue on that?
Yeah, this one I was using Quick and Thick. Yeah,
Okay, that's what I thought.
I think I can't remember, but most of the time on segmented stuff, that's what I use is Quick and Thick.
Is that because
Because
it
it
dries?
sticks. You know, it's you put it up there, and 5 seconds later, you can go on to do something else. You know, you're
Yeah,
neck on to the
exactly.
next piece because it's not going to move.
Right. Yeah, good stuff. Here's the next
Well,
one.
let me start the other video.
Okay.
It is a little different. Uh, oh, by the way, Tom Kenny helped me with the monitor. You know, I'd been using a laser, and I kind of addressed that when in this video. The laser works great. You know, it's like a Lyle Jamieson's setup where you have a laser on top of it and it drops off when it gets to the edge of it.
Right.
And that works great too. And I don't know that I like this monitor thing any different or any better. I was just showing it because I had it. But Tom Kenny helped me set that up. You can't get that dumb monitor that I have. You have to have those pretty much a dumb camera. You can't use a camera that's that goes on your PC. The monitor would have to be smarter than what this little, I think it was $100 or $98 monitor that I've got. And the camera itself wasn't very much. You know, I think they're 10, 12, maybe $20 or less than $20 for one of these little cameras. They're not very high.
Yeah, people are using car backup cameras and monitors for that.
Yeah, you could do that. I saw that too, but I opted for one of these others. I guess because Tom pointed me in that direction. But that's okay. I mean, it worked fine, and they're cheap enough, so who cares? You know.
Bob, where'd
Okay,
you
well,
get
let me go
Bob,
ahead.
where'd you get the camera from?
Offhand, I don't remember. I can probably look it up here and find it and put it in the chat later.
Okay, that would be good.
Yeah,
I'm
but
just curious. I like to play around with all kinds of stuff.
sure, I know. I do too. That's the reason I really did that the first time was just to play around with it and see if it was better than the laser. But those little dot lasers work real well too.
Yeah.
That's what I
The
use.
actual cutter was a dot, Lyle Jamieson type D handle that I used there for a hollowing tool. And then I made one of those cutters that you can turn at an angle to where it's not just a straight cutter across there. But anyway, all this stuff is easy to make. You just have to look at it and say, hey, man, why can't I do that?